Hello and welcome. Departures Capital is a paid content platform and may have received compensation from the companies featured in this content. This material has been distributed on behalf of those companies and may include forward-looking statements as well as technical information reviewed by a qualified person. Please refer to the description below for our disclaimer and visit our website at departurescapital.com for the full disclaimer and disclosure details. What's going on, guys? This is Aaron from Departures Capital, and we're here with Greg McCunn, CEO of Great Pacific Gold. Pleasure to have you on today, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, definitely. So I have to say this video is brought to you on behalf of Great Pacific Gold, and we're going to be talking all about the company. So Great Pacific has strategically positioned itself in some of the most prospective gold copper regions globally with a strong focus on Papua New Guinea. So what makes Papua New Guinea, and specifically the mineral belts you're targeting, such a compelling ground for GPAC's growth strategy?
Thank you, Aaron. Well, look, Papua New Guinea is a great place to invest in general. And one of the things I like about it, it's got functioning regulators, updated mining laws, and you've got big gold companies like Newmont and Barrick who are operating in the country. So that's, right off tells you that the things are functioning properly from a regulatory and tenement management perspective. There's also a long history of gold mining in PNG, as you probably know. And what that means is that you have good people who've been well trained by big companies. So you've got operators, exploration geologists, technicians, etc., who know what they're doing. They've got the skills to do the job, and they have a very strong safety culture, so they can operate safely. These are people who are used to doing this kind of work. But probably, without a doubt, the most attractive point of Papua New Guinea is, without a doubt, the geology. It is an incredible place. It's probably, maybe next to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the most prolific spot to find gold, copper type deposits. Very high grades, very large deposits. Like, for example, the Hira, Porgera, etc. Tens of millions of ounces of gold with copper credits being mined in these wonderful deposits, which is what Great Pacific Gold's hunting. It's elephant country for sure.
Exciting times ahead. So the Wild Dog Project, has been described as a potential company maker. Can you walk us through the historical context of the site, the work you've done to date, and what shareholders should expect, for 2025, the exploration campaign?
Yeah, Wild Dog is an incredible project. Like, I've been involved in the building and construction and startup of 3 different mines on 3 different continents in my career. And when I first set foot on the ground at Wild Dog and I looked at it, there's going to be a mine there. You could just see it. First of all, there has been historic small scale operations, so it's not truly an exploration property. So back in the booming periods in the late 2010s through 2011, a very small Australian junior actually came in and mined surface oxides over a couple kilometers of strike length on this epithermal vein system, which is a corridor called the Wild Dog Corridor of about 15 kilometers in length. They mined a small portion of it, and it effectively is a giant exploration trench. So we've got this surface that's been exposed where we can see this high-grade mineralization, both copper and gold, that's been opened up at a very shallow depth. Since then, we've been able to acquire this concession, which we did successfully in the middle of last year, finalizing the exploration licenses. For the last, call it a year, close to that, 9 to 10 months, we've been getting the property ready, opening up an access road, getting an environmental baseline study because of the old historic mining operations, flying the property with geophysics, modern mobile MT surveys. And what we're seeing here so far exceeds even our expectations of what we saw on the ground. This is a tremendous project, and we're about to start drilling. So as of yesterday, I saw a video of the drill walking up the road to the project site, and I'm sure we're imminently going to announce the start of drilling at Wild Dog. So we're going to be focusing in 2025 on a core 3-kilometer section of this epithermal vein system. It is, we know because of previous drilling there, we're going to be firming up and confirming some historical work that's been done here. We don't have the old drill core. We have the results, but we don't have the core. So we just want to get in and confirm the orientation, the alteration, the mineralization, etc. What that's going to mean is a pretty nice, juicy set of news flows coming out of this. Initially targeting the shallow, open pitable resources, but we know from the geophysics that this system it goes down to at least 1 kilometer in depth. So we've got 1,000 meters of penetration here over a 15-kilometer strike length. So this is a huge epithermal vein system that just hasn't been explored at all with modern exploration. So true company maker, absolutely. In addition to that, it's a huge land package, over 1,400 square kilometers, and the source of this epithermal vein mineralization came from somewhere, and that somewhere has a number of really great copper gold porphyry targets that appear to be of significant size and mineralization. So lots of work to be done on this property over many years. So we're going to be, just because we're still a small company, we're going to be focusing on the most where we can get the most bang for our buck on the real heart of the epithermal vein system, where we see the high grades and have some certainty over exploration results.
So it's where exploration starts. The drills are going to start turning. That's very exciting times. So the Kasar Project's proximity to K92 Mining's high-grade Cora deposit is drawing comparisons with phase 1 drilling validating your geological model. How do you see Kasar evolving, and what are the key milestones investors should watch for in 2025?
Yeah, it's our second major project in Papua New Guinea, called Kasar. As you said, is located in the Eastern Highland province. It's immediately adjacent to K92's K92 mine. So unlike Wild Dog, which is located on the island of East New Britain, very close to Lahire Island, where Newmont operates the Lahire mine. So this is on sort of the mainland of near the capital city of Port Moresby, in very close proximity to K92's operation. As you said, we're busy drilling right now, about 6 kilometers from the mine portal at K92. So what we've been doing for the last 5 months is testing with a phase 1 drilling program a number of exploration targets that we developed through soil sampling and mapping. This is a greenfield exploration site, so unlike Wild Dog, there's been no work done on this property before, no significant exploration by anyone of any significance. So we were starting from scratch last year, but we built up a relatively nice set of targets that were drill ready. Mobilized a drill there in November, and we've been drilling since then with one diamond drill, testing 3 main areas. First, Antaruno, which we were successful at delineating a fairly significant gold system. We didn't necessarily hit the heart of it with Antaruno, but we had mineralization in every hole and some really decent looking gold grades. So we call that smoke, maybe not the fire. We moved slightly to the north in January and started to get closer, we think, to the heart of this epithermal vein system that looks remarkably similar in the drill core to the Cora deposit at K92, which you'd probably expect. And we've been drilling there since January. Assay results still pending, but what we see, and we've announced in news results, is some really nice looking core, well mineralized. So we've got our fingers crossed as things come out of the lab that we're going to have a nice intercept come out of the Hampore target. Now that wrapped up about 5 days ago. We've since relocated the diamond drill to our third and final target that we had delineated for now, called Fufunambi. It's probably the best target that we've identified of the 3. So we're quite optimistic that we're going to see some good news flow coming out of Kasar from the Fufunambi and Hampore in May and June of this year. On top of that, we did also fly this property with mobile MT geophysics, which is very handy in this part of the world because it is quite dense jungle, so hard to see outcrops and whatnot. So the geophysics works very well at identifying these main targets. And what we've shown is we're onto a very large system here. When we lay it next to the geophysics from our neighbors at K92, the system looks of the same scale and orientation as the Cora and Judd system. So like we're really excited about Kasar. Whatever happens in these next set of drill results, there's going to be a long future in front of us in making Kasar into a potential extension of the K92 mine. So that the balance of 2025 is really going to be identifying that second phase of work, which will probably start later this year while we focus our drilling efforts on Wild Dog.
Lots to come. So GPAC has been active on the corporate front as well, recently raising capital and divesting non-core assets. How did these moves position the company to advance its core exploration strategy? And what does the Wahala spinout mean for your shareholders long-term?
Yeah, so our most recently announced transaction, as you say, is, well, maybe first to back up and say that when this company shifted its focus out of Australia into Papua New Guinea, as you can tell, that's been the focus of this interview. Kasar and Wild Dog are no doubt company makers in themselves. We've got two of them in the company, so lots to deal with. We also have this tremendous land package in Australia that really just, for a company of our size and scale, it's really difficult for us to add value across such a broad portfolio. And so back in September of last year, we announced the focus strategy, focusing on PNG with an intention to try and create shareholder value by either divesting or partnering on our Australian assets. And over the last 6 months, we've been very successful at doing that. And the latest transaction that was announced, I think, is a very good value creating move for the GPAC shareholders, not necessarily for the company, but for the shareholders. We've decided to spin out a gold belt, really, in Eastern Victoria state of Australia called Walhalla into a new company, which we're going to spin out in a 1-for-1 transaction to the GPAC shareholders. So this is quite a juicy spin out. If you're holding 100,000 shares in GPAC, you're going to get 100,000 shares in the Walhalla gold belt. This is a land package where there's been past producing mines, very high grade, lots of gold mining history in this part of Australia that goes back to the 1800s and 1900s. There's been over 5 mines operated on the concessions. Again, a district scale land package that for the first time is consolidated in one company. And so having that out in its own in Walhalla, I think personally that company could have a valuation similar to GPAC's right now. So, what you're getting when you buy GPAC today is not only all the upside we just talked about at Wild Dog and at Kasar and our other properties in PNG, but you're going to get a share in Walhalla, which could in itself be worth as much as you're paying for GPAC right now. So that's been tremendously, I think that will be tremendously beneficial to our shareholders. The deal also included $1.5 million in cash coming into Great Pacific Gold. So we will get some benefit to help fund our exploration efforts. And we are going to retain a 2% NSR royalty on the deal. So that means that if there's any upside there in the future, we'll be well positioned to capitalize on it. So, what all of these land sales have landed us in, just in summary, is, aside from creating that value on the spin out, we've also landed now with GPAC holding some strategic interests in junior mining companies because we've sold other assets for shares, cash, and royalties. So we currently own just under 7% of a new company called Golden Cross, which you may have seen. They're working on the Reedy Creek project, which is immediately north of Southern Cross's Sunday Creek project, again in Victoria. So tremendous upside potential in that share position. That's a significant stake that we hold there. We've also we've not quite completed yet, but we will be announcing that we're going to do a deal to sell our Lauriston project. We're going to end up with a significant stake in an Australian junior, which will be named as soon as we finalize the deal. But again, we're targeting trying to have significant positions in these junior companies that are going to be working our properties. And most importantly, we've been receiving cash. So, we've got non-dilutive financing that's been coming in. Almost 4 million will have been raised by the end of May, with another 2 million still coming into the treasury in the coming months. So that's very helpful in not diluting our shareholders to help us do what we need to do in Papua New Guinea, where we think we can add some real value through the drill bit.
Awesome. So with gold prices remaining strong and M&A activity ramping up across the sector, how is GPAC positioning itself within this broader industry trend? And do you see potential for strategic partnerships or acquisitions in the near future?
Yeah, look, it's also fortunate timing here. It's the market is really, I think, primed. Obviously, the gold macro environment is the best we've ever seen it in our lives. Certainly the best ever, I would think. Some of that interest is starting to spill down into exploration companies with real exploration projects, and we certainly fit that bill. Either Kasar or Wild Dog by itself would be enough for a company to attract a lot of interest. We happen to have both of those as well. We've got 2 other projects that we haven't talked about in PNG that can come along in a pipeline behind Kasar and Wild Dog. At this stage, I don't envision us taking on any more for that reason. So I don't see any acquisitions coming, but certainly Kasar and Wild Dog are of interest to majors and our neighbors, of course, at Kasar. Wild Dog is something that could attract a BHP, Rio Tinto, that scale of company with its porphyry potential. But we think we've got ourselves financed well enough to, add value in the short term before we have to start having those strategic discussions. But at some point when the time's right, yeah, we'd expect that certainly big companies will be circling over Wild Dog for sure.
Well, that was very informative and lots of information in there. You guys have quite a plan for 2025 and beyond, some awesome projects. We will be having you back on for sure for more videos and updates. So thank you, Greg. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to covering the story. Best of luck.
Thank you, Aaron. Look forward to next time.